you so much, Elke, for the presentation and also for organizing this slow conference. Deborah and I, we are going to present this work in progress, this paper about how transnational video on demand services are adapting to the Spanish marketplace. So I hope that you found this paper interesting in the sense that we are trying to apply, across platform methodology to study, the particular case of Spain and this video on demand services. We had the idea that global or transnational video on demand services, they are really changing the European marketplace. You take a look to data from the European Audiovisual Observatory, you're going to realize that video on demand services or subscription video on demand services, they are now leading the growth in the field of television in Europe, and particularly these services that they are global or transnational, but they are coming from the United States. If you take a look to the most recent data from the European Audiovisual Observatory, you are going to see that first they are in many different markets. For example, Netflix and Amazon and also YouTube Premium, they are in every country in the European Union 28 markets. So they are in every country. Apple TV Plus is in 26 markets, and Disney Plus and HBO, they are in a less number of markets, in this case around 13, 15, but they are the only services with that they are really with a real presence in the European marketplace. And also they have, you take a look to the combined data of every subscription video on demand services, they have like around 84% of subscribers of video on demand services. So they are really have our dominant position in the European marketplace. But at the same time, taking a cue from Amanda Lodge, we have the idea that sometimes the term streaming wars, and now we have in this particular period called the streaming wars. Sometimes when we're thinking about the term streaming wars, this is not a marketplace with a winner takes all logic, because we know that there are going to be a few services that they are going to drive, that they are going to be successful, and they are going to sometimes to coexist in the same marketplace. So our idea for this paper is trying to think about how these services are adapting to one particular place, that it is Spain, how they are developing different strategies. What is specific of the Spanish marketplace, and we consider that this particular moment is similar, is like a continuation of this process of localizing Hollywood, the period where, the North American majors established, different companies in Europe and all around the world, and try to localize the content. We have the idea that is a good way to understand what is happening with this particular moment, with this particular period of the streaming wars. So of course we are taking into consideration the previous research. As you can imagine, Netflix is a subscription video on demand service with more scholarship. Of course there is a good reason for that, because they are leading the marketplace, and also because they had they have a very clear strategy, and they are very ambitious in this in these transnational strategies, particularly regarding original fiction. Of course, we have interesting research about Netflix and transnational TV, the concept on transnational TV. We have very interesting studies of how Netflix is adapting into different countries, how they are entering specific countries, and also approaches from a more economic point of view. We are going to take into consideration also additional research that is beyond Netflix studies, particularly very interesting work done about HBO in Europe, also Hulu, and also Amazon. It's pretty interesting to us, and probably we have the idea there is some gap. There is a gap in the scholarly attention to this topic, in the sense that even though Amazon is also pretty ambitious in how they are entering different marketplace and how they are becoming a player in specific countries, as is the case of Spain, they don't have a lot of research done about the strategies of production and co-production in different marketplaces. So we have the idea that our research can also be a way to fill that gap. So yeah. My colleague Deborah is going to continue.
So yeah, considering this gap that Conchi just mentioned, our goal here is to establish a cross-service comparison of the localizing strategies followed by transnational VOD services. And to do so, what we are going to do is to first identify through which operators are these transnational VOD services available, and second, analyze their content and production strategies. Regarding the second point, we're going to look into the type of exclusive deals that these players have with, for instance, local broadcasters, also what production companies these transnational VOD services are working with, and finally, what type of original content they produce and how these relates to the creation of their fiction development teams. This exploration is done through the analysis of secondary data, such as press articles, published about a very specific strategic market, that is Spain, as you already know because of the title of the presentation. But why Spain? Well, first is the country that has a highly developed and a strong television industry, which is also willing to cooperate with international players to recover from the effects of the economic crisis that hit the country from 2008 to 2014 approximately. And second, Spain acts as a bridge between Europe and Latin America, where Spanish productions have been traditionally well received. And third, and connected to the above, the country has become a popular production hub for transnational operators. Here, producing high-end programs is cheaper than in other countries, and that's important. So all of these characteristics help us explain why we decided to take Spain as a case study. And now you might be wondering, but how many transnational VOD services are there in Spain? Well, in a period of approximately 5 years, 7 traditional VOD services landed in the country. The first one was Netflix, which arrived at the end of 2015, and the last one was Disney in 2020. Of these 7, 6 are currently active. The one that stopped its activities after 3 years in Spain, in the country, was Sky. And as you might expect, the arrival of transnational VOD services had multiple effects on the industry. For example, it had a tangible impact on the growth of film studios in Madrid, but has also challenged some of the characteristics of the Spanish audiovisual market. For example, Spain is a country where the penetration of paid television is rather low. And this is because of the popularity of free TV content. However, since 2015, paid television subscribers have significantly increased in Spain. Obviously, transnational TV services have also helped Spanish productions to travel, and this has been done not only through the production of new originals with Spanish creators, but also with the acquisition of distribution rights of series that were previously aired in regional and national TV channels. And of course, the arrival of transnational VOD services also led to new partnerships between transnational and local players. And actually, it is interesting to see the alliances that Netflix, HBO, Amazon Prime Video, Starz, Apple TV Plus, and Disney have created. So if we go to the next slide, we see that to establish themselves in the Spanish oligopolistic market, 5 out of these 6 transnational VOD services have partnered with telecommunication providers. As expected, collaborating with national telecom operators is the most common approach. And in fact, all of the transnational VOD services have done so. The exception is Apple, which is only available in Apple devices, Roku, and some smart TVs. When it comes to partnering with regional telecom operators, this does not seem to be a priority as of now. And in fact, Netflix and StarPlay seem to be the only transnational services which have done so. The lack of alliances between HBO and regional telecoms is particularly interesting because, as Conchi will explain in a bit, HBO has collaborated with regional broadcasters quite a bit. However, HBO has signed an exclusive deal with Vodafone, which is expected to last until the end of this year. So we're curious to see what is going to happen after that. And regarding StarPlay, this seems to be to have taken a kind of a different approach. Currently, StarPlay has 8 active partnerships, which makes StarPlay not only the most ubiquitous transnational player, but also the only one which has partnered with other VOD services, such as Rakuten TV. So the different alliances that these transnational VOD services have established in Spain confirms what Feyerhord and Kuhn said in 2019, which is on the next slide. And basically they say that streaming services are new beasts, very reliant on external partners. Of course, these types of partnerships are beneficial for both parties, as you might guess. On the one hand, transnational SVOD platforms gain access to telecom operators' clients, and on the other, telecoms operators increase their offer of content with, in many cases, programs that have the potential to attract a lot of viewers. Now, Conchi will explain the deals.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. Then we are going to take a look to this, other type of alliance. In this case, regarding content, as you can see, the 3, first and main subscription video on demand services. They have been pretty active in establishing alliance with the 3 main broadcasting groups, Atresmedia and Mediaset. They are commercial broadcaster, and also with the public service national broadcaster, Televisión Española, but also with regional broadcasters. This is one element that is specific of Spain. We have a network of regional broadcasters in different regions of Spain. Some of them, particularly the ones with their own language, they have been pretty active in producing original content and original drama, but it's very specific of Spain that this drama is not seen, in other regions. It's just for that region, and is we don't have the habit of watching television drama from Galicia in Spain, for example. There is not like this system to change content, but this is changing now with the arrival of these services, because both Netflix, HBO and Prime Video, they have established different deals with the regional broadcasting to be co-producers, to be first window for the national marketplace, and to have different exclusive deals. So as we can see again, this is like we see the benefit for both parties. The global, or in this case, the transnational video on demand services, they are getting a lot of Spanish television series. They are able to have this catalog with local content for the subscribers. So the subscriber are seeing these services are also with this content that they recognize, but at the same time, for this for those own of these services, they are producing for these services or co-producing for those services, and now they are becoming, we are living like a peak TV now in Spain. We have a boom in production, and this is only possible because these services are buying this content, and on many occasions with a first window they are having these first window deals, because now it's very hard to see Spanish television series on prime time or broadcast channel. It's a really quick transformation of the prime time in Spain. Now original series made by the broadcasters, sometimes they are released first on these transnational video on demand services, and later or never they are they are going to have a premiere on broadcasters. So it's interesting to see, the transformation of the television drama marketplace after the arrival of these services. Particularly, Prime Video has been very active in first window deals. You take a look to the catalog in Spain, you are going to see that they have around 10 series that they consider exclusive, not originals, exclusive. So they have a lot of Amazon Video, they have a lot of content, or that is that they are launching or they are premiering as original, even though it's actually produced with this type of first window deals with these traditional broadcasters.
Okay, so when it comes to the production of original TV drama, this seems to play different roles in the business model and branding strategy of each of the transnational beauty services. And to try to better understand this, we have also considered how and when these players have established their Spanish fiction development teams. So as of now, we have identified 3 different approaches. First, partnering with well-consolidated TV local production companies. And this has been the strategy followed primarily by Netflix. In fact, their first TV drama, Cable Girls, was created by Bamboo Producciones. Bamboo is a production company very well known for the production of period dramas like Gran Hotel or Velvet, which were successful in Spain, but also outside of the country. Netflix has also partnered with creators of well-received broadcast series that had previously succeeded in the platform. Is the case of Money Heist by Alex Pina, or also series that succeeded in Spanish broadcast channels. So given the role that original content plays in Netflix brand strategy, as Jenner explains in her book on Netflix, Netflix's decision to move the Argentinian Diego Avalos and the Spanish Maria Cervera from their offices in Los Angeles to Madrid to open the Department of Fiction in Spain in 2019 doesn't come as a surprise. Both people, both Diego and both Maria, they know the company from inside, and both have significant experience in international co-production for Spanish and Latin American services. The second approach that you see on the slides is commissioning series created by filmmakers, and this is what HBO has primarily done. In November 2016, very soon after arriving in Spain, HBO opened an office in Madrid and hired a senior Spanish executive as the VP commissioning editor. Before joining HBO, this person, Salvat, was in charge of overseeing the development of Canal Plus original series, meaning that he was one of the few Spanish executives with experience in developing premium TV drama, which aligns very well with HBO. In Spain, HBO original productions have been created in collaboration with production companies, primarily owned by filmmakers, most of which had limited or even no experience in the production of television series. There is one exception, and this is the series Patria, which is a book adaptation created by Aitor Gabilondo, who has a lot of experience creating crime series. And the third approach, as you can see, is engaging in ongoing projects. And this is what Amazon Video has mainly done. To expand its catalog, Amazon has engaged in ongoing projects, acquired first window rights for series made by local broadcasters, and also participated in international co-productions. The development of Amazon Originals has stayed somehow in the background, at least in this first phase. And regarding this, it is significant that Amazon does not have a head of fiction as of today. This position was held by a screenwriter, but only for a brief period of 6 months. About StarPlay, Apple TV, and Disney, well, in this case, their first originals have not been released yet, so it's a bit early to draw conclusions about these players. But we can see that they seem to have picked up on some characteristics of Netflix's strategy, such as collaborating again with Bamboo Producciones. Maybe we can elaborate on this then later on in the discussion if there are some questions about it. If we go now, because we have only 2 more minutes, if we go now to the production of fiction series originals, in terms of numbers, Netflix is the company that has produced the most in Spain, with a total of 17 original fiction series. Primarily thrillers and different types of drama, but also comedy, action, and fantasy. HBO has released 6 series originals, mostly produced by filmmakers, and this characteristic contrasts with the fact that HBO has not made a significant investment on film production, as we will see also in the next slide. As per Prime Video, they produced 2 fiction series originals as of now, a biopic and a period drama. So by genre, we can say that these platforms seem to be interested in the production of genres that traditionally travel well. And finally, if we go to the next slide, we can say that we wanted to quickly emphasize that, of course, some of these players produce more than TV drama. In Spain, Netflix has produced films, documentaries, entertainment, and even content for YouTube. And HBO and Amazon have produced docu-series related to sports. And with this, we just jump into the final remarks by Conchi.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time, so just to be quick, we have this idea that these services, they are very active in this partnership with telecommunication company. They are working a lot in having this first window and to produce and co-license this first window programming, and there is a very limited intra collaboration. So sometimes they have this we have this idea that they are making possible some legacy practice to persist in the Spanish marketplace, because they are like these friends. They are these close collaborators of the global, of the local operators. So, but at the same time, they are feeling this necessity to produce local content, to adapt the catalog to the local audiences. Also, because as you know, there is a new mandate by the European Commission. As of now, this law is being adapted into Spain, and probably it will be passed by the Spanish Parliament next year, the beginning of next year. The process is very difficult, so they know that they have some mandate in the Spanish marketplace to have an amount of local European and local content, and also to invest significant money in Spain. So they are having this developing this rapid quick investment strategies in drama series. They are establishing these links with companies with strong records, and they are producing and they are betting on content that travels well, because they know that this content that travels well is key for this content also to be successful in other countries. So for us, right now the main challenge is to understand how these transnational video on demand services are adapting to Spain, how they are changing the Spanish ecosystem, and also the type of content that they are making possible in the case of Spain, because right now it's impossible to understand the development of Spanish drama without taking into consideration, the role of these transnational subscription video demand services in Spain. So thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you very much, Conji and Deborah. That was really interesting and has brought up quite a lot of questions. I found the HBO strategy in particular noteworthy and would love to hear more. But let's hand over straight to Felipe and Roseanne. Let me just introduce them very quickly. Roseanne Zwartman is a film and television writer and director, as well as an academic. She has published on Brazilian television. And Felipe Moanes coordinates international masters in cinema studies at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He has worked in Brazil, Portugal, and Germany, and he has worked both academically and as a journalist and within audiovisual production. His research interests focus on cinema and television, and Roseanne and Felipe's current research is looking at mass audience and telenovelas in Brazilian television, which has also been published. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will share a presentation with you. Just a minute, with some images to illustrate our it works.
Not
it works.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Here it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it's okay because.
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay, I cannot see all the people here. So I will start with the paper. So television creates a public sphere, makes a social agglutination and a sense of belonging. In this sense, one should understand television in countries like Brazil, if not in all countries, as a phenomenon. Television is much more than the device, the channel, the program, the institution, or the media. We need to accept television as a phenomenon that aggregates countless dimensions that we can't understand without its contents, aesthetics, or society takes part in. To disgrace or praise television as a medium of its programs and content is a minor consequence of something bigger, of the necessary discussion of television inserted in the media culture, and how to explain the country itself. To understand television as a phenomenon, it is necessary to drive to accept its role in society, in all its range and complexity. It is complex from its historical, economic, and technological development dimension, in its political relations and politics, its cultural and social relationship, in its dimension of spectatorship and content. It's mainly in the content, the central place where the predominance of television discussion in Brazil is. Either through criticism or academic papers about programs and content, or the plenty of texts related to television and politics. To think about television as a phenomenon in the media culture of some countries, it is necessary to explore its televisiography, a word that does not exist in Portuguese. We understand televisiography here as a set of practices, events, relationships, policies, modes of spectatorship, TV grid, and its contents, defining and distinguishing the television phenomenon in a given region or country. It's necessary to think of televisiography to the extent that the television phenomenon is different in several countries, precisely because in each country, the process of its creation, development, political relations, content, and spectatorship are different. Televisiography is not just about a specific program or aesthetic of a particular channel, as if it were possible to isolate them from an entire television ecosystem. Televisiography implies inserting television content and its relationships within the broader context of television as a phenomenon in a specific culture. These relationships suggest that studying television as a cultural form needs to relate numerous structural, historical, and cultural aspects. Even the broadcast content involves much more than analyzing just a program, but the breaks, the horizontal grid of the channel, and the perpendicular grid of time through the TV channels. Observing these variants for a television analysis, we are not saying that we can't analyze its statics or the program singularly, indistinct from its flow. Instead, studies that examine all the television complexities and variations in such a country necessarily goes through this perspective. In this way, we can turn over to consider just the TV programs to understand the telegeography of a region or a country. The first DNA of television production and content in Brazil comes from the inauguration of television in the country, which still has repercussion today on political issues. Unlike European television that is born public, Brazilian television was born in 1950 through a private initiative. Since then, television has grown up in different commercial broadcast channels and in other regions of Brazil without any public television initiative, which will only happen late in 1967 with the TV channel of Public University of Recife. The telenovela is the main cultural product of Brazilian television, occupying the grid of TV Globo from Monday to Saturday, over 6 hours between evening and night, separated twice with TV news and tries, answering about only 1 hour and 30 minutes. It means the leading audience commercial broadcaster channel in Brazilian TV during the prime time air national content 6 days a week. The dramaturgy of Brazilian television, or teledramaturgy as we name it, has been present since the first moments of Brazilian television before videotape. At first, the teleteatros staged classic plays with renowned actors of Brazilian theater of that time. They screened these plays regarding the country's intellectual elite that aimed at television as a new education space and transmission of literary culture. But then comes the telenovela, more popular, structured in the serialization and melodrama. In a short time of the telenovelas became a great success, eclipsing the teleteatros and extinguishing them. The public consolidated the Brazilian television teledramaturgy based on the telenovela, despite the prejudice and the elites by its popular origin. Today, the telenovelas is still criticized by some intellectuals and from the elitist middle and upper class. They reject the popular program and they did not perceive their importance and impact in a country with severe deficiencies and educational asymmetries. These telenovelas are a product of a commercial TV broadcaster, but bring dialogue and often become the more critical information space for the backlands and the poorest, where the government cannot prepare the entire population for citizen awareness. Even with a series of inefficiencies, telenovelas play an essential role in the country's media culture. Television dramaturgy enriches debates about culture, the popular and melodrama. This one, for Martim Barbeiro, would be the key to understand Latin American television and its products. Melodrama has a fundamental role not only in telenovela, but in most television content. For Martim Barbeiro, melodrama is a discursive matrix of Latin America and an integral part of its narration. And I quote Martim Barbeiro: "What puts melodrama at stake is precisely the drama of recognition, from the son by the father, from mother by the son. What moves the plot is always the ignorance of identity and the fight against the evils, appearances, against everything that hides and disguises it. A struggle to make itself recognized. Isn't there the intimate connection of melodrama with the history of the Latin America subcontinent? Is this why no other popular genre has flourished here, that not horror, adventure, nor comedy has achieved an extension and intensity comparable to those of melodrama in the region? In the form of tango or telenovela, Mexican cinema or Red Chronicle, melodrama works a deep vein of the collective imaginary, and there is no possible access to historical memory that does not pass through this imagination. It's meaningless to wonder if the extension of melodrama's success in these countries is related to the failure of some social and political institutions that have developed unaware of the weight of this other sociality and unable to assume its cultural density. End of quote. Thus, the absorption of the telenovela by Brazilian audiences for intensely dialoguing with the matrix of melodrama is evident, which is extremely important for the construction of Latin American identity process. However, what influences and seems evident concerning telenovelas reproducing this matrix over the last few years is also present in other Brazilian television programs, like Big Brother's reality broadcast in 21 years on TV Globo. The very structure of television news in Brazil also follows the logic of melodrama and serialization from telenovelas, primary and secondary narratives, stories that unfold in several episodes on the election of heroes, villains, and victims. It is the case of Jornal Nacional on TV Globo, which gives the most relevant news in the country in between two telenovelas. It's natural to think how even television journalism can absorb and be contaminated by strategies of telenovelas obeying the melodrama structure. The social themes proposed by telenovelas occupy the media throughout its duration, not only in the cultural criticism section of newspapers, but overflowing to all editorials. Television dramaturgy based on melodrama and serialization guides the traditional public sphere through the electronic public sphere, confirming the meaning of John Fiske's importance of tertiary discourses of television. Brazilian television dramaturgy, however, continues to maintain a critical role in the country's media culture, which goes beyond its commercial and entertainment function. The Brazilian telenovela has reinvented itself as a language and in its themes. However, it remains a servant of melodrama, which is not a problem, working with transmedia content, the support of social network, and even with fan fiction reinventing itself. And now Rosane will follow the presentation.
So next slide, Felipe, please. Okay, so I use this image to illustrate the fact that we live in a cross-media landscape where medias converge, content slides from one screen to the other. So we have to redefine what it means to watch television. So more than an equipment or device, television is also content, different practices associated to a historical cultural moment. And as Felipe just said, each country has its own local characteristics. Next image, please. So let me give you now, Felipe gave an idea about the historical, the history of television and telenovela in Brazil, but I want to give you some numbers. So a primetime telenovela in Brazil will have about 25 million people watching the episode or the chapter on a normal day. However, the same people that watch telenovela the traditional way on linear television, broadcasted, they're also part of a multi-platform audience. In the first semester of 2021, 72% of Brazilian audience watched linear television and online videos on the same month, according to Cantar Ibope Research Media. Brazil has 5 television networks or broadcast stations, 2 public channels, 41 pay TV channels, and 85 VOD platforms. Netflix is in the country, for example, since 2011. Next, please, Felipe. So, Sua Vida Me Pertence, or Your Life Belongs to Me, which we have a picture here on the screen, is considered the first Brazilian telenovela and also the first kiss in a telenovela, a big scandal in 1951. But the scandal, right, in quotations, between quotations, actually helped to make the telenovela popular. And today, about 70 years later, the telenovela has many things in common with the first one. So as Felipe said, melodrama is an important pillar. The traits in the characters are still there, in the themes, in the intense stories and dialogues that are easy to understand. Also, the serialization, the feuilleton narrative tools, for example, the cliffhanger is also there. The popular matrix in the themes, And finally, a direct connection to the public and the influence of the audience and society that help creators tune the telenovela in search for a massive audience. Next, please. Felipe? Next.
Yeah. Yes, next. This one?
No, the next slide, please. Oh, yes. So this is a screenshot of a telenovela I was one of the head writers of. It's called Totalmente Demais, also in English. No, before, Felipe, the one before, the one with the kiss, the slide.
Yeah, I don't know if I can return. Let me see. Okay.
Well, so if you can return, it's the one before. If not, I'll just continue talking. There. So this was called Totalmente Mais, Total Dreamer, and also in some countries, Totalmente Diva. It was sold to 140 countries and territories, inverting traditional and transnational audiovisual flows. And a kiss isn't a scandal anymore. Now, every telenovela chapter, the audience expects more than one kiss. And what else has changed? Well, the telenovelas change with society. So up-to-date themes, what society wants to discuss and perhaps doesn't even know, like the first kiss in 1951, or having private feelings on public television. Characters are more complex, so are the stories. Along with the main story, there are many secondary stories as well. The chapters are longer, but the scenes are shorter. There's more rhythm. The telenovelas are part of commercial television and change to continue to be successful and relevant. Now, the next slide, please, Felipe. So the next slide, this is a screenshot of Global Play, which is a digital VOD platform linked to Grupo Globo. And telenovelas, since the platform started in 2015, are between the 10 most watched content. So the telenovelas aren't seen only in a linear form in broadcast television anymore. But the audience watches telenovelas in the digital platform, not only as catch-up, but also telenovelas from the catalog that are not being shown on broadcast television. For example, Mulheres de Areia or Secrets of the Sand, a 1993 telenovela by Ivani Ribeiro, had almost 5 million views in only 1 month. So again, according to research to Cantar Bob Media Institute, in 2020, 9 out of the 10 most discussed topics in social media in Brazil were telenovelas. But telenovelas are still produced in a business model based on publicity for linear television. Nevertheless, Global Play is already producing its first telenovela, a spin-off of Verdades Secretas or Hidden Truths, which was an international Emmy winner, for digital. For the digital platform First Window. I mean, it's going to show in Global Play before it actually goes to broadcast television. Also, Netflix has already produced telenovelas in Mexico with television and already announced for next year a telenovela made in Brazil for the digital platform. This means a different business model and a different kind of spectatorship is going to begin. The social bond of watching at the same time a telenovela on linear television and the tertiary texts by the audience, produced by the audience that Felipe mentioned, will lose its live quality. So the connection of the telenovela and its creators with the public will change. Next, Felipe, please. Telenovelas are about, that's the video, right? Yeah, well, telenovelas are about 150 chapters long. They are 5 to 6 months on the air of broadcast televisions. They're written and produced while on the air. The author and the producers have as guidelines, focus groups, and real-time audience rates to tune the narrative to optimize its success with the audience. So the images we're seeing right now is a making of a telenovela during the pandemic. And during the pandemic in 2020, the telenovelas started to be produced in advance So its connection with the audience did not happen anymore in real time. And perhaps pandemic has accelerated a new tendency, because if telenovelas are now being produced by VOD and digital platforms, the chapters will be released in a different way, and telenovelas will not be produced while being exhibited anymore. Maybe they won't have 150 chapters. Instead of research in focus groups, data. But data and research don't always work. Telenovelas are tweaked while on the air, and series are canceled between seasons. So the connection of the creators to the audience and society is the key. This is the sensibility to know what should be discussed, what people want to watch, and perhaps don't know yet, like The Kiss in 1951. Next slide, please, Felipe. The next slide.
Yeah, there's a delay here.
Okay, thank you. So telenovelas in Brazil are the equivalent to blockbusters, to shows in packed up stadiums, to bestsellers in the sense of the engagement with the public sphere. Also, as I said before, it's one of the few audiovisual narratives that are exported to the rest of the world commercially. The future of Brazilian television, therefore, is linked to the future of telenovela. But how this will happen in an interconnected cross-media landscape depends on the understanding of executives in preserving the values and practices, and in the understanding of telenovelas' cultural value that Felipe talked about, that connects the telenovela to millions of people today in Brazil, and to makes it be relevant also in exporting to other countries. And doing so, they have to trust, again, the sensibility, in our opinion, of creators and their stories. Last slide, please, Felipe. Thank you. Obrigada.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. What an interesting presentation. And thank you to everyone. Now, what you said there, Rosanna, really reminded me of some of the work that Wilde has been doing in relation to Scam, because obviously Scam was similarly live. You know, that there was the production process was also happening live, and I had not realized that telenovelas also went out live. So is this, are the telenovelas no longer going out then as 300 episodes over 5 days a week over 1.5 years? Is that changing?
That is not changing yet, at least not in broadcast television. But telenovelas during pandemic, we weren't able to write them while they were being exhibited, and that's a big difference. So the tuning of the telenovela while it's on the air can't happen. So if the audience rejects the story, for example, which has happened, and then new authors come in, new actors come in, you change something in midway, that won't be able to work. That won't be able to. Telenovelas were like a TV series; they were shot, and only now they're going on the air, totally like a closed, totally shot TV series, and that's different because the dialogue with the public won't happen then. Yeah. But maybe that's also a tendency, because now that digital platforms and VOD platforms start to produce telenovelas, maybe that's the way they're going to release it. Maybe they won't have 150 episodes. Maybe they will have like a Hidden Truth 60, 50, but they will be closed shows.
Interesting. So this is obviously the process that we know better in Europe, don't we? The kind of the closed shows. Deborah, Conji, is there anything that indicates that there is some change happening in Spain as a result of the SVOD, or is the kind of production process remaining the same?
You want to go, Conchi?
No, sorry. Maybe you can go first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just as Conchi and I just we're discussing all these changes, right? That Netflix and other SVOD platforms are introducing in the creative process. And one of the most significant ones, but also one of the most well known, is the reduction of the number of episodes per season. We are used to 13, 14, 16 episodes per season. That's not happening anymore, right? We are going for 8 Netflix style. And also then the length of the episode. We are used to 70-minute episodes in Spain. That's not happening. We are going to 50, 45, these type of things. Conchi, I'm going to drink water.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, maybe there is also changes regarding genre. We have a lot of crime dramas nowadays, a lot of biopics, literary adaptations. And probably, I don't know, thinking about telenovela and in the case of Spain, daytime soap operas that we had many until a few years ago. I think that these daytime soap opera, I'm not going to say that they are going to be extinct in a few years, but they are not that popular anymore. They are not able to travel as much as the prime time dramas. So particularly one of the commercial broadcasters really, having a lot of, in this case, two daily, daily, soap operas. Now they just one, and probably in the near future they are going to prefer to produce primetime drama instead of this daytime, soap opera. So for sure, regarding genre, things are changing. They are changing as well.
Yeah. So more greater emphasis on prime time than is there a similar? But I mean, the telenovelas are prime time, aren't they, in Brazil? Now, Ipsita pointed to Jane the Virgin, which is a CW show, as Babel points out. But she nevertheless has a really interesting question to ask, which is about, are telenovelas increasingly being meant for transnational audiences instead of the local? Because that was a theme that really emerged in your paper as well, didn't it, Deborah and Conchi? So is there a shift, not just away from that kind of feedback loop with the local audience, but is there actually a shift towards a more transnational audience, would you say?
I'd say that Jane the Virgin is for me, it is a telenovela, as is Game of Thrones and This Is Us, because of the melodrama structure they have and the number of characters and the arc of the characters. But I won't get into that. But it's an excellent question. But as an author of telenovelas, I'd say that when you try to, it's like using an excess of data or research. If you try to do something to sell to the whole world, maybe you won't. But, like Chekhov, if you talk about your local place, maybe you can talk to the world, and maybe you can connect, and maybe you can travel. So I think you have to have a story you believe and characters that you believe. And I mean, we didn't know that Total Dream would sell to the whole world. We thought it was a surprise for us. And my most recent telenovela, my daughter is now in Israel, and she told me it's showing there. And I was like, wow, how come, it's and in Emirates and in a friend in Abu Dhabi said he saw it too. So you can't write for that. You have to just think of a good story. And the Spanish series now, they're all over the world. They're seen in Brazil, and they're a success in Brazil. And I don't think they thought about Brazil when they were writing it, but they travel well because they're good stories,
I think also this is the problem. This is a format, and so the structure of to write a telenovela in Brazil, for instance, is different because you connect with the issues of Brazil at the moment, and especially I think Rosane can speak better about this. But when TV Globo sells a telenovela around the world, I think Globo cut some scenes that are more connected with Brazilian reality. And then these telenovelas, in this way, they can talk a little bit better with other countries. And then gender versions of format, then some specific issues are out of these stories.
Yeah, for sure. Turtle Dreamer, for example, went to Germany with only, I think, 100 episodes, and it's originally done with 155. So they dubbed it to German, and they reduced the editing, probably cutting out things that maybe would not, well, merchandising, probably. They cut, cutting out merchandising, but also cutting out things that wouldn't be locally understood or important.
Absolutely. Mareike, do you want to come in here? Your comment on Club of Crows, sorry, Club of Crows. Yeah.
Ah, Mareike.
Hi. Yeah, I can come. No, it's mostly that I think Club of Crows actually went for a while. I don't actually know how many seasons it ended up with, but I think it was like the first what is now called local language series that Netflix did, and it's a Mexican series. It is quite important, like obviously because it's like its first local language series. It's quite important to note that Netflix was in Latin America before it was in Europe. Like Latin America was like its first major non-American market. And I think Club of Crows is quite interesting also in terms of what Rosanna was talking about, because it is that production process that you have for Netflix with, I think at the time it was still 13 episodes. Yeah, and obviously you have to produce everything before you put it online. So there aren't like any of those changes that you can make with telenovelas, but also in the soap process in terms of like reacting relatively quickly in the way that TV traditionally can. To things that happen in the world and to contemporary discourse. And obviously for Club of Crows, like it's about like this club, it's about football. It's like it actually has some very, very heavy-handed stereotypes in terms of like, all the Latin Americans like football, and that's why we're showing a parody of telenovelas because Latin Americans also like telenovelas. And I think like it even featured some actors from Mexican telenovelas as well. And like I said, it's very, very heavy-handed, partly because it's a parody, but also partly because it's heavy-handed on national stereotypes.
If I say something? Club de Cuervos was a bit controversial because it was not created by a Mexican screenwriter, so for them was kind of a foreign, program. So, I think that Casa de las Flores, yeah, I think Casa de las Flores, which is a 100%, parody of the telenovela genre, from my point of view, is much more interesting from that point of view. But what I was going to say is that it's interesting because Deborah discussed Bamboo Producciones as a bit because 3 different services are producing, series with video on demand services are producing series for them. Velvet, for Ramon Campos, one of the co-creators, he told me that for him this series is like the sublimation of the telenovela. So for them, the telenovela is a reference, and they are pretty much working, trying to adapt the melodrama formula to primetime drama. So I think it's not a coincidence that Bamboo is so popular with transnational video on demand services coming to Spain, because they are like the production company to go. So, and I think its success as a company is based on being able to adapt this telenovela formula.
I have a question to Deborah and Concepcion. How do copyrights go for the companies that produce for VOD? Because, for example, one thing that's happening in Brazil is that companies that produce for VOD digital platforms, they don't have the rights for what they produce. And for the telenovela, I have still rights for, it's sold around the world, and I still have rights for how it's sold, or author rights. But when I write for a VOD company, I have to not, it's all there. So that's one thing. And then the other thing I'm curious about is how, like, Televisa co-produced with Netflix in Mexico, which is something surprising for me, because like a broadcast company with a native digital company producing together. Does that happen in Mexico, or only independent companies produce with?
Go, Conchi, go.
Oh, regarding the IP rights, I think that it's different in each case, but in Spain we have the experience of the traditional broadcasters keeping the IP rights. So it's not a new thing for production companies in Spain, for streaming services, to keep those rights as well. Now we have also this controversy, also because we have this new law being discussed in the parliament, because independent producers, the Association of Independent Producers, they want, the video on demand services to not to have the 100% of the rights. But now, we don't have development. The only development in Spain is paid by the broadcasters and by the streaming companies. So what they are saying is that we are paying for the development. The IP rights belong to us. So it's like that. There are not a lot of cases. In the case of Amazon, as they have this first window and co-license deals, sometimes they are just one. They have the right for a limited time. But the company, in this case, some company, MediaPro, for example, they are keeping a lot of IP rights. But MediaPro is an exception, because it's a huge company. They are a really relevant player. It's very difficult for a smaller, a production company to keep the IP rights.
Interesting. We're kind of already out of time, but I haven't really opened up the space at all for questions to the audience. Is there any questions in the audience? If not, can I ask everyone to thank the 4 speakers for really interesting papers about the specific developments. I found the papers really, really interesting, in basically precisely showing that, we cannot just assume that what is happening in America will happen everywhere. The role of telenovela in Brazil, and obviously also the particular intricacies of production processes in Spain, are very, very interesting indeed. So thank you very, very much. Our next panel starts already at 3 o'clock British Summer Time, which is in 23 minutes. So I am going to close this meeting.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Ciao, everybody.